The Germans famously annexed or united with Austria in 1938, but it wasn't the first time that they tried that. In 1934, the July Push took place, which was a failed coup attempt against the Austrian government by pro-German unification sympathizers. Historically, it failed, so Austria got to live for another day, but with Italy and Germany allying, the Italian guarantees on Austria were void, leading to the German annexation just 4 years later. But what if things went differently and the July Push successfully overthrew the government, replacing it with German sympathizers? Would this move start the Second World War 5 years earlier, destroying Germany, or would it strengthen the German regime, as they would have more people to produce weapons earlier? Let's find out how this would end for the Germans. With some research, we know that most people in Austria supported the union with Germany, so why did it fail in 1934, but succeeded just 4 years later? This question can be explained like this.
Hey, Austria. I know you just lost the Great War and were punished heavily. We're all speaking German, so you can join the Weimar Republic if you want.
Hello Germany, this sounds very good to us, since every nation in the former Austria-Hungary got the right to self-determination except us. We want to join you.
Well, in that case, I'd suggest... Hello, Austria. This is the new German leadership. Do you want to join us?
No way! I'm calling the police! Historically, in 1934, Austria had a brief civil war which lasted for just 4 days. The reason for that is the rise of power of Engelbert Dollfuss and his political party, the Fatherland Front. The party's ideology is right-wing conservative, nationalist, dictatorial and Catholic. Quite similar to the one in Germany, you would say, right? This is not the case, as the Austrian Fatherland Front was based on Italian ultranationalism. As I stated already, Italy was Austria's strongest international ally against Germany. The Austrian Ultranationalist Party was the opposition to the Fatherland Front, and the goal of their party was to rejoin Germany. The Austrian Civil War consisted of the Fatherland Front fighting against the Social Democrats, with Engelbert Dollfuss' party coming out on top. This cemented Austria as an ultranationalist dictatorship. All of this happened in just the span of 4 days, which makes it one of the quickest civil wars I'm aware of. The Fatherland Front began to crack down on pro-German unification sympathizers. The Germans responded by assassinating Engelbert Dollfuss in the July Push, which is the topic of today's scenario. Let me tell you how this event went, so you can understand how the Germans can successfully coup Austria and put pro-German unification sympathizers in charge. The idea of the coup was to replace Engelbert Dollfuss with Anton Rintelen, who was the leader of the Christian Social Party. The party got 30% of the votes in the 1930 Austrian election, the last democratic election in Austria before the Engelbert Dollfuss dictatorship. This insurgency lasted only for 5 days, 1 day more than the Austrian Civil War. The reason why the coup failed is that most of the Austrian population and army remained loyal to the government. What ended up happening is that the pro-Germans managed to assassinate Dollfuss, but his political party remained in charge in Austria, so nothing changed. After the coup failed, the Germans wanted to invade, but the guarantees by Italy on Austria didn't allow for such a war to take place. In the first hour of the attempted coup, German SS divisions, disguised as police officers, pushed into the Austrian chancellery and within minutes Engelbert Dollfuss was shot dead. The rest of his government managed to escape. This leads me to think that for the alternate history part, we can have the Germans arrest or assassinate more members of the government, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The pro-German unification sympathizers occupied the Austrian national public broadcaster, letting the public know that Dollfuss has resigned and Anton Rintelen will take over. This should have signaled to the rest of the pro-German sympathizers to rise and take arms, but this didn't quite fully happen. There were just minor rebellions, disproportional to the actual pro-German support in the country. Most of the rebellions happened in the countryside, not in the major cities. Another reason why the coup failed is that the pro-German unification sympathizers were not armed, since they believed that the Austrian military and police would join them. As I already told you, the army and the police stayed loyal to the government, so this backfired. To me, this is the most stupid reason why it failed, as it's better to be safe than sorry. Arming these people in secret wouldn't hurt anyone, but would only benefit the German cause. The final reason why the July Push failed is because after Dollfuss died, the Italian Duce moved troops to the Austrian border. Italy notified the German Chancellor that if he was to invade Austria, Italy would intervene and defend the Alpine nation. This made the German Chancellor proclaim that he did not support the coup, which ultimately led to its failure. We already have several reasons why the coup failed, that we can use in the alternate history part. The events that we would need to alter so that we can secure a German victory in the coup is that we need to have the Germans arrest or assassinate more members of the government. They would also need to better equip and prepare the pro-German unification sympathizers. Another idea is to secure Austrian army and police support. These factors can guarantee German success. I want to quickly go over the annexation that happened just 4 years later, as we need to see the differences so we can implement some in this scenario. The Austrians supported of them being annexed into Germany. Even the idea was more popular in Austria rather than in Germany. This is due to Austria being screwed over after the end of the Great War. Their industry was in Czechoslovakia, which they no longer controlled, and their food supply was in Hungary, which again was an independent nation. They even lost their access to the sea, which prevented the Austrian nation from accessing global trade. The Austrians were feeling like the Treaty of Versailles was hypocritical, since it gave the people of the former Austro-Hungarian Empire the right of self-determination, but this didn't apply to the Austrians, who wanted to join Germany. If they joined Germany, all of the problems I just mentioned would be resolved. When there was a not-so-democratic vote in 1938, held by the Germans in Austria, 99% of the population that voted wanted to be annexed. So we can dismiss these numbers as they're not realistic. There is no way for us to know how many people actually supported this decision. If we use the 1927 election, which was 11 years before the German annexation, the numbers tell us that over 65% of the people voted for pro-German unification parties. We can assume that this election was mostly democratic, so we should know that the majority of the population approved of uniting with Germany. When the ultranationalists in Germany rose to power, many Austrians stopped supporting the idea of a union, since they didn't agree with the new German Chancellor's views. Having all of that said, we can assume that the Germans can get many people to support their cause, despite the popularity of the pro-unification ideas dropping. The Germans can promote ways on how a union would benefit Austria, as well as send arms to pro-German unification sympathizers, preparing them in Bavaria for the upcoming coup. The most important reason why the annexation succeeded in 1938, but not in 1934, is the Italian guarantee of independence for Austria. Italy invaded Ethiopia in late 1935, which soured relations with France and Britain. Thus, Italy became isolated with no real allies, so they looked north to Germany. As a kind gesture to secure this new alliance, the Italians stopped caring if Germany invaded Austria or not. This leads me to think that if we start the Italo-Abyssinian War 1 or 2 years earlier, the Germans will have success taking over Austria for the same reasons they did in our timeline. We have explored everything that Germany needs to do so they can maximize their chance of success. So, on the 25th of July, these events will take a different turn. Prior to the invasion, the Germans would destabilize Austria by reminding them of their worsening economic situation due to their former industry being in other independent nations. This will increase the already majority of pro-German sympathizers in the country. These people should be armed in secret, which Germany was very experienced in at the time. Also, there needs to be a better organization and clear instructions on how to destabilize the country, not just rebel in the countryside for 5 days. As for dealing with the Austrian police and army that opposed the coup, I came up with something unique. There is no doubt that some in the army and the police were pro-German sympathizers, so they can help the coup from within. If a commander or anyone with a position of power is pro-German, they should send their forces at the time of the invasion somewhere remote, where the armed pro-German sympathizers wouldn't rebel. As for people who don't have any position of power, they would be instructed on how to sabotage their colleagues' weapons, rendering them useless. Italy invading Ethiopia a bit sooner is a possibility, but it's hard to say for certain on how this could happen. This is why I'll split the scenario into 2 parts, one where the Italians invade as they did historically, which would allow for them to defend Austria, and another where Italy invades Ethiopia early, gets stuck and cannot spare forces to defend Austria, allowing Germany to get away with it. If Italy doesn't invade Ethiopia as they did historically, then this would pose a threat to Germany, as the Italians can defend Austria militarily. The German coup on Austria will be successful, with Anton Rintelen taking over as the new Austrian Chancellor. He would become a simple puppet state of the Germans. Now, Germany will not annex Austria right away, as they wouldn't benefit from doing it right now. This can only hurt their situation by giving Italy a reason to invade. Here, we get to have an interesting scenario, since when the pro-German unification sympathizers stormed the Chancellor in Vienna, historically, they assassinated Engelbert Dollfuss, but this time, as I said already, they should go after more people. This means that the most prominent members of the Fatherland Front, the ruling party in Austria, allied with Italy, will be dead. The Italian Duce can request that the German forces and Anton Rintelen pull out of Austria, and in their place, the Fatherland Front is restored or risk invasion. The problem is that, as I said already, the Fatherland Front doesn't exist anymore, due to most members being assassinated. Kurt Schuschnigg took over the fatherland front historically, but let us eliminate that option by eliminating him. There is no information online where he was during the storming of the Chancellery in Vienna, so for the sake of this video, let's say that he was inside and got killed, or his position was known and at the time of the coup he was eliminated. The Italians can protest Germany's move all they want, but they wouldn't be able to restore the fatherland front. The Italian Duce would suggest that Italy forms a provisional government to carry out the legacy of the fatherland front, and that his government should rule Austria temporarily. Now, Italy can put an ultimatum that if their government is not allowed to rule Austria until the 1st of September, Italy would invade and use force. Let me remind you the position of France and Britain in this future conflict. The Allies were strongly against Germany and still had good relations towards Italy. This leads me to think that an Italian military intervention wouldn't be opposed by the Allies. I don't think that Germany will pull out of Austria, so a state of war will exist between Italy and Germany. Now, if the Germans pulled out of Austria, then we would simply get the historical timeline. This means that even if this scenario is slightly unrealistic, I wanted to do something else than tell you what historically happened. I think that we all know how that ended for the Germans. So, would this time be any different? A few facts we have to consider is that the German army was just starting to remilitarize in secret. This, however, wouldn't be enough. The German army was originally limited to 100,000 soldiers, but the Germans tried to increase that number by giving military education to students, claiming they are police officers, not army soldiers. The Italian army was incompetent, since it suffered from the same issues as they did in the Second World War historically, but still they would be better equipped and had a numerical advantage over Germany. This leads me to think that Italy will push into Austria, maybe capture Innsbruck, Bad Gastein, and Klagenfurt am Wörthersee. There, the provisional government would be installed, more or less turning Austria into an Italian puppet state. Austria would be completely screwed, as now they would have to choose between ultranationalist German takeover or ultranationalist Italian takeover. With the Alpine mountains in the way, I assume that both sides would get stuck and the front lines would solidify. Now, I assume that Switzerland would join the war, abandoning their neutrality, capitulating all of Germany, then Italy, to form the Holy Roman Empire. I'm kidding, by the way. For a couple of months, the front lines wouldn't move, but the cities on the front lines would be destroyed completely. As the German and Italian armies get stuck, the months would pass. In 1936, the Summer Olympics took place in Berlin, Germany. This time, I don't think that this would happen, since Germany is directly at war. Historically, in the Olympic Games in Berlin, there was a massive German ultranationalist propaganda, which showed to the world that Germany is reformed under a new ideology. Without this event taking place, I assume that the rest of the world would have a more negative view on the ultranationalist regime. After all, the Summer Olympics were supposed to be in Barcelona, but due to the ongoing civil war, they were moved to Berlin. So, a war has historically cancelled the same Olympics. The Stresa Front consisted of France, Britain and Italy forming a literal wall against Germany. This can be restored in the situation in which Germany has put itself into by trying to annex Austria. It's possible that Germany will push for uniting with the Saarland while the war is ongoing. If it's a democratic vote, then I assume that this would succeed. This would make the French mad, so I assume that a revival of the Stresa Front would get formed. The French public was against war at the time, since France was doing very bad economically and politically. The French nation had rising communist opposition, which was against war. If France had started or joined the war, the communist opposition would start a civil war. There needs to be a very good reason for France to join the war, so they don't suffer any hardships. If the Germans democratically get the Saarland, I don't think that France can protest this, as they would suffer more damage than the Germans. The same applies for the remilitarization of the Rhineland. What can get France to join the war is the German army count that has increased past the 100,000 soldiers limit, which violates the Treaty of Versailles. Another thing that can get the French public to support the war is to present the war as defending Austrian and German Catholics, helping their Catholic Italian brothers. As for the United Kingdom, they won't be able to use these reasons as justification, so they would need to think of something else. Due to the Germans not hosting the Olympic Games, they won't be able to show to the world their propaganda. This would make the British public very wary of the new German regime, and many would start to question if it's any good for the stability of Europe. So, what can we use to justify Britain going to war? Britain officially abolished slavery in 1834 with the Slavery Abolition Act. When this happened, the British forced their subjects to follow in their footsteps. Britain even started some wars, for example the Anglo-Zanzibar War, strictly because they wanted other countries to also stop using the slave trade. Now, considering the German ideology at the time, Britain can become sympathetic to the Jews. Maybe Israel is formed a bit sooner, with the Summer Olympic Games even being held in Jerusalem for propaganda reasons. Now, Britain can claim that they're the protectors of all worldwide Jews, which is a very good justification to put them to war with Germany. In 1935, Italian soldiers would control most of Austria, with the British and the French joining the war against Germany, both having their own motivations behind it. This would for sure be the end of the German regime, as the Allies would want a new type of government in Germany. The Germans stand no chance since they hadn't even militarized and even France could defeat them alone. Clearly, a unified German state cannot be trusted and is a big threat to Europe, so this would need to be resolved. Germany shouldn't be punished too hardly, as they shouldn't turn communist, but stand up for themselves against it. As a result, they cannot be stripped from too much land, as this would make them unable to defend themselves from the Soviet Union or would suffer communist revolutions. France would occupy all the Rhineland, with them maybe annexing it in the future. This would create a natural defense for France against Germany, but also make France capable to stand up to Germany on their own. Austria would be restored with the Italian provisional government being installed there. What would happen in Austria is that I assume Otto von Habsburg would return to the Austrian throne as an ally of Italy. The French had promised justice for the Catholics in Germany, which means that Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg and Württemberg-Hohenzollern would be reinstalled as separate states, under Italian and French influence. In Bavaria, Ruprecht, Crown Prince of Bavaria, is installed as Italian puppet. In Württemberg, Philip Albrecht, Duke of Württemberg, is installed as an Italian puppet. In Württemberg-Hohenzollern, Wilhelm, the German Crown Prince, is installed as an Italian puppet. The rest of Germany will become democratic again, but this time Konrad Adenauer would be trusted in governing this new state. This can very well succeed since Konrad Adenauer led West Germany historically. He accepted the defeat and didn't seek revenge, but wanted to be equal partner in Europe as France, Britain and Italy. In the 1950s, he wanted to reclaim the Saarland from France, so this time I would assume that he would aim for the whole of the Rhineland. Maybe France will not be able to keep it, so in 1950 the French would give up the region but annex the Saarland. The Catholic south of Germany would remain Italian, for now. Japan's situation in China would be complicated. The Japanese won't seize French into China, which means that the Americans would still trade with them, fueling the Japanese war machine. Maybe Japan is successful in this timeline against China, but they will not go to war against the Western countries. As for the Soviet Union, they will take the opportunity of the Allies being at war with Germany to go to war with Finland, as they did historically. The Baltics would also be presented with a deal, where Soviet troops would be stationed there, just to protect them, but later these nations would get annexed. Romania might give up Bessarabia, but this is unlikely since Czechoslovakia, Poland and Yugoslavia are untouched, so they might form an alliance. They already had formed one, the Little Entente, which was an alliance against Hungary, so this might get revived against communism. Overall, the Allies would be in a stronger position due to them being allied with North Germany. Italy would still invade Ethiopia and annex Albania, which would sour relations with the Allies. Maybe Italy and the Soviet Union team up to challenge the new global order, but this cannot be said for certain. As for the scenario where Italy invades Ethiopia early, the situation in Austria would develop in Germany's favor. This is because Italy was the trust of their allies, resulting in them not helping Italy out. As I mentioned already, if Italy were to invade, they would still get stuck in the Alps. Italy would also get stuck in Ethiopia as they did historically. The Italians just suffered too many casualties there, and the Ethiopian campaign took more time and resources than what it should have. In a scenario where Germany successfully coups Austria and puts Anton Rintelen in charge, the Italians might not intervene and let Germany annex Austria in the following months. This is because Italy can either have not enough troops to spare, or since they were abandoned by France and Britain, would prefer to ally with Germany instead of fighting them. What I just explored are the same conditions as to how the 1938 annexation of Austria by Germany went. This would allow Germany to have millions more people to produce weapons for them 4 years earlier than they did historically. Now, since Germany has increased their population, they would argue that they would need a higher army limit, not just 100,000 soldiers. I would assume that the Allies would simply give it to them, for the reason that when Germany went past this number historically, the Allies didn't issue an official diplomatic objection. Both countries of France and Britain were just too busy from recovering from the Great Depression. In 1935, Germany would still take the Saarland with a democratic vote. The Germans would take the Rhineland next, for the same reason as they did historically. Then we might have an earlier Sudetenland crisis, with France and Britain most likely holding the Munich Conference. Overall, nothing much will change in this scenario, as the Germans would perform slightly better, but not good enough. Maybe the Germans would have enough resources to destroy the 150,000 British forces at Dunkirk. Ultimately, no matter what, Germany couldn't win the Second World War, even with the Austrians being on their side for longer. In the peace treaty, we would have a slight difference, with Austria being occupied the same way as Germany. I would assume that we would have a Western Austria and an Eastern one. Vienna might also be split up like Berlin, but this is up for debate. The reason for splitting Austria up is simple, because they weren't considered a victim of German aggression, but an active supporter. This is unlike our timeline, where the Allies were debating on whether Austria should be punished or not. Now they know to punish them. This means that Austria will not reunify later, under the condition that they remain neutral and never rejoin Germany. The Iron Curtain's length would expand in the European continent, which increases the chance of a Third World War. This is very bad news for Austria, but a scenario where they perform better can be found on Videnti's channel, where he explores a scenario in which Austria annexes Germany, not vice versa. Hope to see you there.